Hi, it's Dr. Mercola, and many people feel I have a relatively controversial position on supplementation because I feel pretty strongly that most of the nutrition that we're designed to acquire should be from the food that we eat. And that makes common sense, of course, but many people argue that because of modern-day agricultural practices that rely heavily on the introduction of artificial fertilizers, that it is virtually impossible to achieve optimal nutrition without supplementation. And I'm not sure that that's true. I think if you eat a wide variety of foods, specifically ones directed for your nutritional type, and it's obtained from organic, preferably locally grown sources, that you can achieve this. However, 95% of the food that people eat is processed, and of course most of it is not organic. So if you fall into that group, or you're like myself, that you find yourself traveling more than you'd like to, and really the food that you ideally would like to eat is not available to you, and then you may want to consider some type of insurance. And if you're going to do that, I thought you might benefit from some of the research I did when I was constructing a set of criteria of a multivitamin that I would use for myself personally. So let me review that for you. First of all, you want to make sure that the supplements and the raw materials are from the natural ingredients if at all possible. And let me tell you why. There was a study done a few decades ago on beta-carotene, which is a precursor of vitamin A, and was thought prior to the study to be helpful in reducing the risk of cancer. Well, the studies were done, published in some very well-respected journals, that showed that it actually increased the risk of cancer. And when it was carefully analyzed, they realized that the reason for this is that it was from a synthetic version. So the synthetic beta-carotene is clearly going to make things worse, actually increase the risk of cancer. So you would definitely want to avoid it. And while I'm talking about beta-carotene, I personally have another controversial position, and many people disagree with this, but I'm convinced from some of the research that came out last year that it probably is unwise to actually have natural vitamin A, the preformed vitamin A, in your supplement because it could interfere with the vitamin D. So if you're going to select one, I would choose one that has a beta-carotene, natural beta-carotene, not the preformed vitamin A. That's going to be healthier for you. So in addition to that, vitamin A is really important, especially to work with the vitamin D. You want to make sure that your supplement has vitamin D. And I didn't always believe this, but now I'm convinced from a pragmatic perspective that the multi should have vitamin D, and almost all of them do. But the challenge is, of course, they're going to be subtherapeutic doses. And really the research is very, very clear. There's just no question about it. The typical adult doses should be about 5,000 units of vitamin D a day. Now, some people may need significantly more than this. You could supplement beyond this. The only way you're able to tell if your vitamin D dose is accurate, of course, is by doing a blood test. But 5,000 is a good starting spot. So make sure it has vitamin A as beta-carotene, not preformed vitamin A, and vitamin D. Now, the other thing is you can base your multivitamin supplementation down into two broad categories, one with minerals and one without. And if you're going to have the ones with minerals, you're going to want to make sure that it's in a tablet, because if it isn't, you're going to have to take 200 to 300% more of those supplements every day, because you're just not going to be able to squeeze them into capsules easily. But if it's in a tablet, you want to make sure the tablet is very easily digestible, that once you swallow, it's going to break down really rapidly. Otherwise, if it's not, it's too hardly compressed and compacted, you will actually eliminate it in your stool. So, and you will, well, obviously won't get any benefit. So that's a key component. Another area that you need to be concerned about is to make sure that there are basically whole food concentrates in it, because there's lots of micronutrients and accessories that we really even haven't figured out yet. So if you're able to provide a wide range of these foods and put them in there and have them on a regular basis, you're probably going to cover your bases more effectively. So those are some key things. Now, another important point that most people aren't aware of is that if you go into a typical vitamin store, the vast majority of the supplements you'll see there are actually not made by the companies whose name is on the label. What they do is they contract that manufacturing out to a different company. And so you may not be able to get this information from the company directly. It won't be on the label. You have to ask for these types of details to the company who is actually making it. But there's some very important details that you really need to be aware of. And find out from the manufacturing company who's actually producing this. So when you, this is really crucial, because the manufacturing standards for supplements are completely different from the ones from the drug companies use. And that, I mean, I'm not a big proponent of using drugs, of course, because in almost all the cases they're just unnecessary. They're going to only relieve symptoms, not treat the cause, and they're going to potentially cause many side effects, if not premature death, and a lot of needless pain and suffering most of the time. So while I'm not a big fan of drugs, I'm a huge fan of the way that they're actually produced, because there is some very rigid quality assurance standards that are used to do that. Unfortunately, these same type of standards are not being done in the supplementation industry, and that's why you have to be careful. You have to do your own homework. You have to really be diligent about this, because there's no government agency is overlooking this for you. So these are the details you want to look at. When the company buys their raw materials, they will receive from the person who the company that's supplying them what's called a COA. That's short for Certificate of Analysis, and this is a laboratory analysis that is done by the company that's selling the raw materials to the manufacturer. And that's all well and good, and that does meet the standard of the law. Unfortunately, there's a huge potential for conflict of interest. And if that raw material company lies, essentially adulterates the product or makes a mistake, or you know, the manufacturing company is not held liable because, you know, they have a certificate of analysis. Well, the good companies will do independent third-party certification that what is in the material that's being sent is the same certificate of analysis. So you have a double check on this, and it's really important to do. Now, additionally, once you have all the raw materials and they're all high quality, all very good, then the company should be following a certain set of standards. One is the GMP standard, which is actually being mandated by federal law in the U.S., and not all companies do that at this point. And the other is the ISO standards. And ISO standards is really an industrial type of standard that many manufacturing companies use, because it's very common for human error to enter into the manufacturing process, not intentionally, of course. It's just an artifact of the way that it's done. And if you have these processes in place to address that, you can minimize that and really prevent many errors from causing harm or damage to you or your family. So if you're going to choose a supplement, if you believe that you need some type of insurance for you or your family, then I would strongly encourage you to use these guidelines to select a company that follows these. And actually, as I said, I put this together for myself, so because I do take a supplement every day, a multivitamin, that does meet these, and we sell this on the site here. But it is clearly not the only company that does it. There's others, but if you're going to choose another one, you clearly, strongly recommend and highly encourage you to make sure they meet all the criteria that I just mentioned above, and is in the information below here. It goes into more detail. So make sure that's going on, because, you know, ideally, if you're going to spend the extra time, effort, energy, and resources to acquire these supplements, you want to make sure that you're getting what you believe you're getting, because your health is a precious commodity, you and your family's health. So these are important guidelines that will continue to allow you and your family to take control of your health.